According to leaked information obtained by the rebel, the RCMP is set to unveil a new uniform with a hijab, the Sharia-compliant Muslim head covering for women. An RCMP planning document shown to the rebel states that the new RCMP hijab is set to be revealed later this month. This news was leaked to us by people within the RCMP who said they were concerned about the inherent sexism of using a symbol of the oppression of Muslim women as an official symbol of Canada's secular police force. There are other obvious issues besides sexism, like the religious and political meaning of the hijab. It's a symbol of political Islam, a flag to be flown to the world to show that Islam inhabits once secular offices of the state. In other words, it's not just sexist. It's the end of the separation of mosque and state. I contacted the RCMP and asked them various questions about their new hijab, including requesting an image of it to see what it looked like. They refused to give us a sneak preview of it before their big fashion show reveal. But other police forces, including in Toronto, Edmonton, and London, England, give us a sense of what other police hijabs look like and are likely templates for the new RCMP one. I asked the RCMP today other questions too. Practical questions like, are there any Muslim officers who actually want to wear a hijab right now? Or is this being pushed by the political brass at the top? I suspect it's a politically correct thing by liberal white men, but they won't tell me. I asked the RCMP what message it sends after their decades of wrestling with issues of sexism and sexual harassment. The RCMP has finally put behind them, only to now endorse official sexism in a uniform that suggests women must be covered in public and that any woman who isn't covered in public is haram. That is the Arabic word for dirty. That's what a hijab means. Unlike non-hijab women, they're halal or clean. A hijab is about social ranking. Women are lower than men, but women without hijabs are lower than those with them. This is now a part of the RCMP's doctrine. But what about issues of political Islam in the rest of Canada? Muslims represent about 3% of Canadians, but they're responsible for a vast proportion of terrorism offenses, honor killings, and even ordinary violence, which may be what we witnessed in Calgary over the weekend when Somali men shot into a crowded bar, injuring a man. If there is a Muslim character to a crime, like the Muslim honor killings of the 4 Shafia women in Kingston, or the Muslim honor killing of Aqsa Parvez in Mississauga, or a Muslim-only Somali gang, is it appropriate to send an RCMP officer wearing a symbol of political Islam, militant Islam, public Islam, to investigate? The Quran does not prescribe a hijab, let alone the full face obscuring niqab. That's a political statement, a fashion popularized by the Ayatollahs of Iran and by the Wahhabis of Saudi Arabia. Here's a famous picture of thousands of Muslim women in Iran in the late 70s protesting against the new law brought in by the Ayatollah requiring women to wear veils. It's a political symbol of oppression. It's not normal. It's not even normal in Islam. Only stupid white Western liberals think it's being tolerant to accept it in a secular institution like a police force to begin with. But what about policing where the suspects or even the crimes have an Islamic character? Let me tell you what I mean very specifically. I mentioned the Shafia honor murders, 4 women murdered, 3 girls and 1 polygamous mom, the husband, brother, and other polygamous wife convicted of murder. But the girls in that family asked for help again and again from their school, from social workers, from the police. They were being threatened by their parents for not wanting to wear a hijab. They wanted to be free. Their father threatened them if they didn't wear a hijab. And each time the girls asked for help, they were sent right back home. And on one occasion, the official bureaucrat sent to shut these girls up and send them home was wearing a hijab herself. Imagine that. You're a young Muslim girl. You want to be free. You want to be Canadian. You don't want to wear a mask on your face or on your head just because your medieval father and his medieval religion demands that you do. And he threatens you, so you call for help, and ding dong, who rings your doorbell? But a cop, a Canadian cop, but all you see is the hijab. See, she's not really a Canadian cop, is she? If she's flying the flag of radical Islam, if she's so determined to wear a hijab that she wears it instead of the uniform all other policewomen wear. Do you really think a hijab-wearing RCMP officer would take a scared girl away from her family over not wanting to wear a hijab? Or do you think she'd send that girl right back and say, know your place, look at me, this is how women in Canada are supposed to be? Do you think a scared teenage girl would even talk to such an officer once she walked in the door? An RCMP officer wearing a hijab wouldn't even have to say a word. Any young Muslim girl calling for help and seeing such an officer would just lose all hope and submit, or be killed, or commit suicide. But you can be sure she would not ask for help to be free from a hijab from a cop wearing a hijab. Separation of church and state. You know, we've heard that phrase forever, but what about the separation of mosque and state? If you're pulled over by a hijab-wearing cop and say you're a Jew wearing a yarmulke, are you going to get fair treatment? Again, it's not a religious symbol. It is a symbol of political Islam. It's a political statement as much as a cop wearing a button for a political candidate. Imagine any crime that has a Sharia law component, from wife beating to alcohol or gambling offenses to, of course, terrorist recruitment. If you're taking a political stand for political Islam, if you're dressing in a Sharia-compliant way, are you enforcing Queen Elizabeth laws or Muhammad's? I asked the RCMP today who consulted on this, which Muslim groups, which imams. No answer. The RCMP was very friendly with me. They just said they couldn't answer my questions, that the expert on the subject was away, and maybe I'd hear back later. I hope I do. If I hear back from the RCMP, I'll let you know any of their answers to my questions about sexism, about politicization, about the separation of mosque and state. Hey, how do you feel about the RCMP? The most iconic symbol of Canada, other than maybe the maple syrup or hockey game being Islamized. How do you feel about it in the wake of the mass sexual assault by Muslim migrants in Germany? Imagine if you're a Canadian girl, sexually assaulted by a group of Muslim men because you weren't wearing a hijab. Would you feel comfortable complaining to a hijab-wearing political Islamist who was a cop? How would you feel if you were fleeing radical Islam, coming to Canada from some Sharia hellhole, and the first thing you saw was a hijab on a police officer? You'd say, I thought I was in Canada, a secular country. What do you think? Do you like this? Are you excited about what will come next? Who knows? Maybe the full face-obscuring niqab for cops. I mean, why not? Justin Trudeau says women wearing niqab should be able to vote with them on, appear in citizenship court with them on. Do you really think it'll be long before we have RCMP officers wearing the full niqab body bag? This is too far. This is not Canada. In Canada, we're all equal before the law. This isn't even a religious symbol. It is a political symbol. If you're fed up, sign my petition at www.ShariaPolice.ca. Here, I'll read you the petition now. We demand that the commissioner of the RCMP cancel the hijab uniform and respect the separation of mosque and state. Visit ShariaPolice.ca and help us fight back.